It's 10 a.m. on Friday, July 14th, 2023. I call this special session of the Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. Let's start with item number 1, discussions with Cheryl Jones, County Auditor, and Stephen Jones, County Treasurer, on accounts payable procedures. Who would like to go first? The commissioners would like to go first.
Yeah, well, I will. I'll just kind of say, Cheryl, you gave us those procedures, which were, I guess, court-ordered procedures from us as far as the volume. But we were kind of wanting to understand what are the rules on, I know we have a debit card, and I know we have a credit card, and I know we pay with check, and I know we pay with EFT. And there's been instances where we needed to expedite a payment, but that doesn't seem to apply because we don't know the rule. What is the rule?
I guess I'm not completely understanding your...
Well, I'll give you a prime example. I had a situation.
I found this on the web.
I had a situation in Dallas, Texas, with a very large Caterpillar company that I needed a credit card payment for, but we couldn't use it. So I ended up having to expedite it and just pay for it myself. I wondered, am I supposed to know when or what to do? We had also assets needing to be retained for security purposes. And I had Debbie call multiple times. We couldn't pay them with the credit card and expedite the transfer. So we've had to send a check now, and they made it clear they're gonna hold the check until it clears, and then they'd ship the items needed for security. So now we're into 45 days or better, and I still don't have the security equipment. What is the rule for using the credit card? And why wouldn't we want to do that?
But that Dallas one, I'm sorry to interrupt, wasn't that they wanted it to, like, we didn't know what it was gonna cost, it was gonna be more than $5,000, and they wanted to, us to give them like a prepay that we didn't know what we were gonna pay for?
A $500 deposit.
Was it a $500 deposit, but they wanted us to use it to hold, okay, sorry,
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
Yeah, it was a $500 deposit that they needed because they didn't know us from Adam.
Gotcha.
We didn't have an account with
Okay.
them.
I was just trying to remember.
They're bigger than Warren Cat is here. They're a huge group in Texas, but they just didn't know us. So
Okay.
that's what I ended up doing, and I didn't know what is the rule.
There really isn't one. I mean, other P cards are set by a rule. Those are only for travel. As far as the credit card, your precinct cards only have $200 limits on those. They're used very minimally. There is no real rule on what we can't. The court hasn't decided. That's where that purchasing policy would be real helpful.
But
'Cause it
was
would
there
lay that
mention
out.
of how to pay for things within that purchasing policy? I didn't notice that it explained how that we would handle transactions in a debit or credit card manner or EFT fashion or.
It may not, and that might be something we want to clarify. Typically, we don't pay by credit card unless we need to. We like to have that invoice because it's got to be audited. It has to have a set amount, but I'm not saying we don't pay things by credit card. It's just, it is a judgment call, a case-by-case basis usually.
And the road and bridge cards were all set up to only pay, I'm just saying, car tags, that's a court order.
Okay.
So if y'all wanted to change that, it would have to, I assume, go to
And
court.
I think that's all we use.
Right,
ours
that's all you
for.
have ever used it for. I'm just saying in the
Right.
future, if you were wanting to think that was an option, those were not set up for any, that's why there's only $200 on
Yeah,
drives
I
and there's $500
don't
on
think
five.
we really want into that business of
Gotcha.
doing,
No, because then
we'd rather pass it off to somebody
Absolutely.
to do it.
Gotcha.
yeah.
To your point, I mean, there's gonna be times where we have county staff that's out of the county or whatever, and they may have a breakdown on the side of the road or whatever, need an expedited payment to do, get a tow truck or whatever.
Yeah,
So-
Sheriff's office does that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
Sorry.
yeah, I mean, but most of the time the tow trucks are gonna bill us because we're a governmental entity, they're not. But yes, I mean, to your point, but most of the time they're not even carrying the debit card.
no, but we could call in and get a credit
Sure.
card authorization.
Yeah.
We can call in and they can pay with the card over the
Yeah.
phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what
which can be
I just
done.
didn't, I don't understand why it wasn't done for that.
Yeah,
To me,
I don't
that
either.
didn't make any sense. It may not realize it wasn't a set line item, this costs this much, but it's a line item, it's $500 deposit. It was no different, him using his own personal credit card than it would have been the county.
Yeah, that situation didn't make it to my desk, so I'm not 100% sure what happened in the judgment call. I do rely on my AP
Well-
manager to make those judgment calls.
Well, and I didn't know what the policy was, and that's why I'm asking the question, because there are instances, and like the vendor for the security devices, you know, he was like, you're sending us a what? And I'm like, a check. And there are some people that pay for it, just let me tell you what our company policy is, and he was like, that's so antiquated, it's unreal.
Right, but checks.
So,
The thing with the credit card is that if I pay by credit card, I don't want to say it circumvents the process. In the end, you eventually see it, but it, in a way, lets me pay for a bill that hasn't been approved by you, if you think about it.
So that's why I'm a little, under our
Which is
current,
why we do try to keep to the checks.
and under our current accounts payable for expenses less than $5,000, we're approving it after the fact. Because number one on this list is purchases made.
Yeah. Well, the county policy that's a county policy that says that, anything greater than 5,000 needs a pre-approval to use your budget. Anything less than 5,000 doesn't need that, it can be spent, because we don't have a purchasing policy, can be spent, and I'm the first approver, you're the second approver by statute. So the purchasing policy, where we're doing requisitions first, which is still required by another statute, we just haven't enacted it, requires a requisition to approve the purchase essentially before it's made. So which is where we need to go. We need that purchasing policy.
So
I'm a little.
while everyone is here, can you lay out for us, in an emergency situation, what the expected policy is? Because I think that's your question, one of the questions.
Well, I think
right?
the problem is that we have a kind of a misconception on what we determine to be an emergency. I mean, I think there's varying definitions of what everybody here is thinking an emergency is.
expedited needs, so when my trucks
So
were
great.
broke down on the Red River Bridge and I was backing up traffic all the way to Wichita Falls on I-44,
Yeah,
I had no choice but to call tow trucks and get them
Sure.
moved.
So what,
That-
how would, from your office's standpoint, how do y'all expect in an ideal situation for that to work?
Under the current situation or?
No, under the current. But that's what we're talking about.
Well,
with this
typically,
item.
you just he took care of it, and the bill is sent to us. I mean, that's what happened. He called the tow truck sent us the bill.
Okay.
I mean, if you need a credit card, though, what are you gonna do if it's after hours? If it's during hours and you needed something, I mean, yes, somebody in my office is gonna pay for it if they had to have it right then.
Okay. So the policy in an expedited needs situation is call the auditor's office and
Yeah,
they'll work
because we're
with
the
whoever
only,
the
I mean,
vendor
because
is.
the debit cards they're carrying, if they're carrying them, it's only got a $200 limit. So unless the court determines to raise it, my office has the main card that's got a much larger limit.
Right.
So,
There again, that was a judgment call on
Sure.
what I determined to be life, health, safety needs, determined the emergency.
And
life,
I-
health,
So I
safety,
think,
sure.
I think as commissioners, we should have some degree of autonomy of determining what constitutes an emergency.
I think we do.
I think we probably just need to come to an agreement of what that
What that
definition
is.
is going to be.
I don't know that you can come up with a hard, fast definition.
Well, I mean, yeah,
Well,
the
I mean,
statutes are
'cause-
all, health, safety, welfare, emergency,
Yeah.
that's.
well, I just knew that I had spent $1,200 hauling a machine to Fort Worth. It had to sell. The next day it would not start. And unless the person that needed to look at it, unless I got it up and running so they could go ahead and move forward with the sale, I was gonna pay another $1,200, which I did, to haul it home because it did not make the sale. Because I couldn't act quick enough.
And
And then when I realized the next day, well, hey, I'll just pay them to go and do this deal, it was done too late. They did go and do it, but
and that would not meet the definition of life, health, safety,
I
emergency,
would agree
but
with
it is a better use of county funds.
I wasted $2,500 for nothing.
Did it not make the second sale?
No, we brought it home. Because at that point, Holt Cat, after they looked at it, had a real breakdown of what they wanted to do, and we didn't agree, so we brought it home. It could have stayed, and I could have paid to fix it, but I didn't know who I was dealing with.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was gonna be expensive. We did know that.
Yeah. And so today it is sold in South Dakota. It is not any of our worries anymore.
Yeah, it was one that just walked in, you know, check his ID.
That wasn't that fine chipper to be honest.
No, I think we need some definition of how to work within the best interest of the county on purchases that we deem are necessary to both save funds and life, health, safety.
Then we should define that, and we should put that in the purchasing
Yeah,
policy.
that's what Commissioner Beecham is saying.
And that's fine. We knew the policy wasn't, when it was first written, was not going to cover everything, and we knew it was gonna be a living document, and these are the things that we know we need to address, so we can address that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I wanted to get that clarified, and I do think that's something that we should work on, because all of us in this room know that, I mean, it's just common practice to pay with the card anymore, and it's very few of us write a check, sit down and write our bills out and pay it with a check any longer. And Stephen, that brings me to you. I've had some vendors that are telling me that we're approving that check on one Monday, and it's getting postmarked on the next Monday. So when it first came up, I just asked him to go ahead and take pictures of those envelopes so I could see it.
Yeah, that
And
shouldn't be happening.
One of the things that stood out to me was we're hand addressing envelopes. And it kind of looks like we're trying to put that address in where the window might go in a windowed envelope.
Yeah, it was my fault. I had a supply issue. I needed some window envelopes. We were out. And the ones that I had didn't have a return address. I was told I couldn't send them that way. I've already addressed this with Natalie. I didn't know she was handwriting envelopes.
They could have been run through the printer.
Yeah, I didn't realize the printer could do that.
Yeah,
I've got it fixed
looks
now.
cheesy.
Yeah, I've got it fixed now like 4 different ways, so it's not going to be happening again. Like I said, I talked to her about handwriting. We're not going to handwriting anything. I've got more envelopes already. I've asked for some more just plain envelopes because I can print the return address. I've got a return address stamp ordered. Like I said, I'm looking into like 5 different ways to make sure it doesn't happen again.
And do we have the ability software-wise when that, you know how on your check stubs that when we print them, it has the return address? Can we not use a double windowed envelope that also prints our return address so that when it goes in there, it's all slotted?
Well, our return address is on the check stub. We might be able to get that lined up where we can use a double window envelope that doesn't.
Yeah, we just need somebody to
So we don't
develop
have
a
to buy
template for
pre-printed
that.
envelopes with the window. But
Yeah.
yeah, a plain number 10 envelope with labels would have.
Because Stephen's a big user of envelopes and
Yeah.
Tommy's a big user of
Right.
envelopes. and-
Which is also going EFT will help cut that supply.
Yeah, and it actually has quite a bit.
Yeah.
Postage.
Like I said, it was a temporary problem, and I didn't address
I figured
quickly
that
enough.
was the source of your question on Monday with these 72 hours.
And what
Yeah.
is the clerk and the county clerk and the district clerk, do they send out statements that require a specialized envelope? I know that we're just paying to put those addresses on stationery that we're utilizing, and I just wondered Is that
I don't know
necessarily
that they
necessary?
buy a lot of envelopes. I mean, I know they've got their letterhead, but I don't know that they're really sending out a lot of stuff that, as far as their stationery wise.
I didn't know, but I just thought that might have been the issue that you.
It was totally my fault and it's been fixed.
Good.
We're not gonna be having that issue anymore.
Didn't give you the warm fuzzies to get a handwritten envelope if the person really cares about you.
You know, I did find there's a way, because I was working on the Pitney Bowes machine yesterday, because I love that little thing.
If it was a thank you note, yes.
It has a way to print little messages on there, I guess, had been set up, so like, you know, I could have been printing Happy 4th of July, or I could have, you know, so when Thanksgiving and stuff rolls around, we might
Right.
send out stuff with little pumpkins, or,
Do you want to come to friends at the counter?
yeah. There's, you know, and I'm working on how to type in my own message, because like I said, I can get it to print return address from Bob. I haven't figured out how to change that yet, but I'm working on it. This is.
Is there a portal you work through on it, or does it have?
I found a keyboard behind the machine. And it was. I don't think you could see it because there was about an inch of dust on top, but there's a keyboard back there, like a plain computer keyboard that you can pull up and work on. But I hadn't figured it hadn't let me do a lot of changing to it. So
Have they been non-responsive? I know the tax assessor collector has just about given up getting a response from Pitney Bowes. Have
I
they?
didn't really have much problem with once we knew there was an issue to call them. I mean, Margaret calls them all the time.
I think Mike does, I don't
I think it's Mike, but once we located
Who
who to contact.
Yeah. It was interesting yesterday. I was trying to find a user manual for it, and there were 4 different model numbers on the machine.
And apparently they're not real good about updating their postage amount, so while
I think-
postage rate went up January 1st and July 9th, somewhere in there for a while didn't have the right postage amount on there.
And Brendan, I was going to ask you real quick. I was going to ask you private, but anyway, is there Wi-Fi to that machine?
I don't know how it's hooked up. I'll have to go look at it.
Okay, we just need to make sure it's got a solid internet connection, because I was trying to do an update for, like Cheryl said, for the 9th.
The
We're
postage
supposed to
rate.
go up again. It went up to 63 cents, but it was supposed to do that on the first.
No, it's up to 66 cents.
It's up to 60 cents this month, but on the first of the year, it was supposed to go up to 63.
And it went up, and somebody noticed, and of course, then it got rerouted to my office because somehow I'm in control of the postage rate set by the United States Postal Service.
But yeah,
They're like, why did it go up? The United States Postal Service.
and it went up again. We just need to make sure that the machine can be updated. That's why I was asking about the internet. We had a service guy come out and work on it a week or so ago, and I think that's when the last update hit.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he had to connect somehow or what we need to do to make sure that we can connect it.
When I emailed
Which
you
will
about
mean to
that,
make sure the tax office is.
I did, that's what I was gonna say, when I emailed.
Yeah,
you
she
guys,
said she got hers.
She said hers is fixed.
Yeah. So that's why I'm wondering if it's an internet connection
Yeah, that's what I
situation.
was gonna
But-
say.
Shouldn't be. I'm pretty sure it's wired, but I'll double check and see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Otherwise, I'll keep chewing on the bone, and figure it out.
Anything else on this?
No, I just wanted for clarification.
All right, item number 2, discuss premium pay funding for jailers currently being paid for by state and local fiscal recovery funds. So everyone should have received from our auditor just some information about the costs related to this, what it, Cheryl, thank you for getting the specific information that I'd asked for. And as y'all can see,
I sent it at 3:46 yesterday. I can resend if you need it.
So I think that the key takeaways for me on this were, we have plenty of lost revenue available to take care of paying for the supplement for the rest of 2023.
Yes.
Just some back of the envelope math I did this morning. I think we've got around 12 pay periods left in the year after the July 20th one ends. And at the $35,000 per pay period, that's about $420,000.
That's correct.
Okay, so, we have, right now in the spreadsheet, you can see we've got about $2.5 million of, lost revenue,
Yeah.
sorry.
Unallocated, yeah.
We've got about, 8 million of,
Right.
lost revenue that's unallocated, so, now, as you all know,
Well, this-
some of that may need to be moved over for construction if it doesn't,
Right.
qualify, and some of that but we've got,
out of our total award, we've got about 2.5 million that's not allocated. We have about 8 million left when the lost revenue category, based off of the, categories I was able to put construction in, so as long as those aren't challenged, we have plenty of lost revenue.
so, yeah, so a little over $400,000 to get us through the rest of the year paying for the supplement, as it is today, out of lost revenue. And we'll make it, we will make a decision on this on Monday as a court, but, I think that seems to be the best way to handle the rest of 2023, would be to use that lost revenue. That way, no one sees any reduction in what they're getting, taxpayers aren't footing the bill for it, from the standpoint of having to pay for it out of the general fund, and that gets us through the rest of 2023. As far as the 2024 budget goes and how we're gonna do this, I think we've got a few different options, and,
We're talking about a $900,000 expense?
Yes.
yes, $910,000 annually.
It's a penny.
It is, it's a penny. However, we've got, as you all know, the legislature passed Senate Bill 22, which is a rural law enforcement grant program. For counties our size, should be eligible for $500,000 a year. Now, the comptroller's still in the process of drawing up the rules for this grant. Those probably won't be available and done until October or November, which, as you know, is after we will have adopted the budget. There's a wrinkle here that $500,000 statute lays out what it can be spent on. The first thing it has to be spent on is making sure that sheriff,
Patrol deputies.
patrol deputies, and then jailers all hit a minimum salary threshold. We're already there for our patrol deputies and our sheriff. Jailers, however, that's a threshold that's $40,000. You have to spend that grant money on that first.
That's an additional 40 to get them to where?
Get them to 40.
Get them to 40.
Get them to 40,
Get 'em to
a
40.
minimum of 40,000.
Okay.
And for our jailer positions, jailer 1 through 5 are all underneath that $40,000 threshold. So
It's not gonna, we're still gonna have the extra penny burden.
I don't think so. Cause here's where I think we are, and we're still getting some numbers, so
Yeah.
this is still preliminary. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, my question is, I'm not under the impression that we have starting pay under 40,000 in the jail. I thought that was the whole purpose of being able to add this premium pay.
So
You
the
don't.
premium pay is a.
Can I answer this?
Sure.
You don't, from the standpoint of the bill and the language and the comptroller's salary is 40,000. For our jailers, their salary is underneath that $40,000 number. The supplement gets everybody above 40. What we won't know until October, November, when the comptroller finishes writing the rules, is what does salary mean? I think I know what it means. I think they're probably gonna say that it means whatever their base salary is. So I think you're right that no one starts under $40,000 when you put a supplement on top of it. But for the purposes of the grant, that's I don't think they're gonna consider where we have our folks as above 40. because the base salary is not. Mark, the reason I said I think that there's some options there is could use the grant funding to get folks to a certain salary threshold, because we have to if we're gonna use that money.
Right.
And then I think there's still plenty of lost revenue to cover the supplement for 2024 as well. Which I guess means we're sort of just switching the pot of money of the premium pay from how the one tranche of ARPA money to the lost revenue.
Yeah, we're just
side.
changing it from one category to the other.
A one-time, one-year payout,
It's a 2-year.
and that's done.
So,
Like anything the legislature does, yeah, they'd have to act on it again in the future.
right.
But
So the missing piece to our calculation is that the county, the bill only covers the salary amount. So the fringe amount and the overtime amount on the additional pay has to be funded by the county.
Yeah.
So that's the part we're gonna have to,
yeah, there too, when ARPA runs out, we're still gonna be on the hook for it
Correct.
all
You
all
are
at
correct.
once.
When ARPA runs out, that's right. So that is why I believe was Judge Gossam's plan initially last year when he presented, and since he's here, he can correct me.
Shout out Jeff Dawson.
Was to increase our tax rate a little bit at a time to start eating
to
away
get-
at
yeah.
that $1 million amount that we're gonna have to fund at some
Yeah.
point completely.
Thank you, sure.
Was that correct?
I was sitting here thinking that, but
And this, again, this is not something the court's gonna have to decide Monday. The 2024 stuff, we'll have to make this decision for the 2024 budget. We're good through the rest of this year with supplement as it is today being paid for out of lost revenue. What we do in 24, we have options. To your point, Commissioner Fincannon, grants only last as long as they last.
Yeah.
The challenge with this one is if you're gonna take the $500,000, it's gonna be spent, it's gotta be spent on that minimum salary first before you can do it with anything else.
Yeah.
Some grants we have the chance to make one-time purchases out of and make the decision on how we're gonna build that. This one, that will not be the case until we hit that minimum salary number. And who knows, the comptroller could come back with rules in October, November that says something different, but that's where.
So, but all of this, we are making assumptions in the blue, because Cheryl, my question would be to you, how did we close 22? Were we short? Were we in the red? Were we in the black?
No,
How much money did we carry over that we had planned to spend in 22? Because all that's relevant to
Sure.
what is it?
Because those numbers are still being currently audited, but I can give you a base idea.
So at the end of the day, Judge, get your number up. That 500,000 will go to raise base pay, but that would help us get to the level of where we have those people to with the overtime. I'm not explaining it.
No, I think what you're talking about, Commissioner, is
Yeah.
if you raise the base pay, this court could decide to reduce by some commensurate amount
To keep-
supplement.
to keep them whole.
To keep them whole.
Yeah.
That
Because
is,
if we're in a $900,000 deficit, about something in that, and then I'm hearing Cheryl say we're gonna pick up the,
Overtime.
if you raise their base pay,
Yeah.
yeah.
pick up, that's gonna, so I was just sitting here doing the math, take 900, that's $400,000 deficit, plus the benefits is what I'm hearing.
Right,
So
Well,
that's basically
right.
what we would be short.
yeah, well, the supplement itself is not, if you keep this additional supplement as it currently is, it's not subject to overtime. It's just that base pay, which is about $35.53 an employee, that will have its overtime. Now, remember, the jail runs about $60,000 hours of overtime a year currently, so that can go a lot, depending on where they are staffing wise. That overtime number can be really high, or it can be much shorter. Raising the base salary
They salary
maybe
eat some of that.
It will,
Yeah.
but maybe it will help them hire people. We don't really know. These are all a lot of unknowns that we're gonna be
Right.
shooting a dart into the dark about.
I'm just trying to look down the road and see what the wall is.
Sure.
Sure.
So
And we're still
somewhere around
gathering.
$500,000 is what I'm thinking.
If the court
Yeah.
were to choose to keep the supplement at what it is and raise
Right.
this salary.
But to that, well, and two things into play there, improved federal, jail agreement with higher rates and maybe
Sure.
for whatever we can do to get the volume of customer in, as well as Will's idea was very good. We can strike a rate that is feasible, and that'll help also set off some additional cost. And maybe there's others out there that we can, say, hey, we'd like to entertain you to use us.
I think that for looking at 2024 and beyond, we are not limited in options, both on the revenue side and how we pay the expenses side. And as part of the budget, this won't be the last conversation on that point on this, I assure you.
I don't think we can count on federal detainees or other counties.
So we shouldn't count on that as
No,
our
it's,
funding
it's a
source.
variable revenue stream.
Correct. When we go to a lot out budget, that just needs to be an extra
Yeah.
revenue that
Yeah.
we're not considering.
Yeah,
so to
we
speak.
can't base our budget on those numbers because they're not steady.
Right, cause we thought our federal marshals numbers were gonna be
Gonna
much
be
higher
bigger.
a couple of years ago, and
And
that's
it
not
hasn't
really been
materialized.
near that ballpark number.
It's like budgeting your electric bill against your lottery winnings.
Yeah.
Which is not a good way to do it.
But, I mean, something doesn't jive to me. If there's we have relatively at least a third and quite a bit greater than a third of our space available. We're being told that there is no room in the state. There's no place to send your prisoners, yet nobody's knocking down our front door to get in. And, I mean, so what is the?
What is it?
Have we set out a,
Well, you have
no
space, but you
vacancy
don't have the
sign?
staffing.
And isn't that true?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And that's true with like Denton County.
Yeah.
They have the space, they just don't have the staff.
Probably the same Lubbock, I would guess.
Yeah. But Lubbock, I think, is also building. Is that true? Were they building? Yeah.
So if they had more staff, they would be in better shape. They're trying to get rid because they can't staff
They don't
up,
have the staffing.
which catches us behind the eight ball too, I guess, too.
We're in the same shape.
Yeah, a certain number, because our census has been down this year.
Last year, we ran a really high numbers all year long, and we have steadily slowed that down to around back to about 465, 470. Last year we were running upper 500s, 560, 580.
So Captain, if you had to open another pod, you'd have to do it with overtime, basically.
And, with our census being lower, we do everything that we can to keep housing units closed. Like, we have 3 housing units closed right now, so if we can move inmates around and close units to save staffing, that's what we do,
Yeah.
so.
Alright, Jeff, to your question, our 22 fund balance is down about $4.9 million from 21.
So what is our fund balance?
25.5 million at the end of 22 for general fund.
You was down 4 million, right?
Yeah, almost 4.9 million.
Is that related to expenses being, obviously it's related to expenses being greater than revenue, but is that a function of the ARPA money that had been put in actually is now being spent?
It could be, but it looks like our taxes receivable coming in is $4 million less than it was in 21. Because
That's not good news.
But
so remember, those are 23 numbers that haven't come in yet with our increased property values. Those run a year behind.
No, I know that, but
Yeah, and the rate went down. Yeah.
yeah, but those things should equalize, because rates go down as values go up.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
down it's down about it's
We
over
should-
$4 million.
We should be collecting more tax
We are,
revenue than,
overall, I mean, we're at the
Rate
same
went down.
place as far as percentages go, and we're dealing with the same revenue stream.
we had a tax increase last year, minimal, but we should be drawing slightly more revenue.
Wasn't that for road and bridge?
No,
No, it was, you know,
no, road and bridge stayed. the
we
same.
could have, no new revenue would have taken us down 2 cents lower than where we ended up, Judge.
Yes, sir.
Would have, overall.
Joe, we put you on the spot for trying to find that info. Will you follow back up with us and send that out?
Sure.
That sounds wrong to me, but what do I know?
Well, just remember, like, the rates that we passed in they were in a year behind, so.
Right, but the court sets the rate
Sure.
at a no new revenue plus, I forget what
Well,
it
we
was last year.
didn't, well, the plus was, that money hasn't come in. We went 2 years with a no new
No
revenue
revenue.
rate, so.
So we shouldn't be collecting less
Right.
taxes
It's
by
a
that
no new
much.
revenue rate, it's not
I
a,
mean, it'd be a.
but less revenue rate.
Yeah,
Unless, yeah, but.
and
there
our
were
collection
some
rate's been
And
concessions.
our
high
collection rate's been- right.
according to what we're,
That's why
reports
I
we
mean,
got from collectors.
But
if
yes,
you
we
look-
can dig into that and give you more info.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right, that we're gonna $5 million deficit.
But yeah, that's where the,
I think we may also be at the far extent of stretching what premium pay funding for jailers agenda item we can talk about, so.
But I think that, I agree with your plan, I think.
For the rest of 23, I think
Right.
we pay for that lost revenue. And then the longer term strategy, we take up in the 2024 budget. All right, any other questions or comments on that? Okay. Item number 3, discussions on detained healthcare review at the jail and juvenile detention center. You all should have the letter and the backup info from Bill Bryan of Detain in your info. I think you all see this, but I think the key takeaway from this is, from the letter, based on our review, we believe Core Health is substantially compliant with terms and the intent of the agreement. They did make some recommendations that could improve delivery of health services within the jail. I actually had a meeting with Captain Patterson and her staff to go over some of those. Has everyone had a chance to look at it and questions on it?
Well, I mean, I've got to tell Will and Lisa, to me, that's just a whole new level of, we've got a whole active department now focused in the healthcare there that we've never had the ability to achieve that. And it takes the other side being willing to do what they always wanted to have. And I'm super impressed with, and it just continues to improve. Y'all are just taking it like this all the time. They got good people involved and they want to do the right thing, and that makes a big deal. So, I mean, to me, how could you be better than what we have got going? I mean, I know there's places.
Sure, you can always do better, but, and again, I know the court, we entered into the agreement with Detain because we wanted an outside entity that knew more what they were looking at than any of the 5 of us could ever know on something that specific, to go in and review it and talk to them about it. And they did, and the review came back, even the recommendations are fairly specific, detailed ideas for improving things in the margins. But I was impressed and good to see that the report came back. It's a glowing review. Kevin Patterson, did you want to say anything on this or speak to any of it?
You know, going through several different companies that we've had in the past, Core Health has done a fantastic job. I mean, what they came in from what WellPath left us and cleaned up in a very short amount of time, they've just been fantastic. Definitely was the right choice for us.
I mean, it's an expensive they should be doing a good job.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
expensive, we're paying a lot of money, but, it's good to see that for all of that, for the investment that we're making, it's a good investment.
It is, I would agree 100%.
Judge, there was one line on here that I had a question, it may be the way I read it, it may be a punctuation, it says down on the medical grievance, 100% founded and 50% unfounded. I can't make that.
What page you on?
Oh, well, I'm on, examination of health services, I don't have a page number. Right ahead of emergency transport and custody, which is one of the categories. That was just odd to me, whether it was written, it may just be a,
Yeah. So I review all of the grievances that come through. As part of our plan, me or Lieutenant Hankins have to review those once they're done. And we get very, very, very few founded grievances on medical.
you know,
Very few.
So-
it's probably just the way it's
Yeah, so
written.
what it's saying, detain reviewed 100% of the founded medical grievances.
And
They reviewed
50%.
50%.
Oh, that's
of
the
unfounded.
review, that's where, okay, that's what, I was just not looking at it under the right context. Okay, very good. Which even though it sounds like a lot, it says here it's only 8, so that's,
Yeah. I mean,
that's pretty good.
very rarely do I get
Yeah.
grievances on medical. Very rarely.
Since, oh, go ahead, Judge.
Oh, thanks, sir. How did they, you know, it's the first time we've had that robust of a mental health program. Did they give any suggestions or attaboys or on how well that's done?
They did not. The only, I mean, the reference to it was, one of the concerns that they expressed was the lack of consistent or available mental health and drug abuse services. That is something that, the data that they were looking at was from the back half of 22 and the first couple months of 23. After that point, Core Health had actually been able to hire a consistent substance abuse person and get their mental health services beefed up a little bit. And so it has improved since the data that they were looking at for the purposes of this review.
And Judge, can you speak on, I know that y'all have a plan that even elevates some of our capabilities as far as having to ship people off for the testing?
Well, that's still in the discussion stage. Judge Kennedy has led an effort with the whole county family to look at implementing a competency restoration program out at the jail, so in jail. So folks who get declared incompetent to stand trial right now, they're stuck in the jail until a slot at the state hospital opens up for them. That can sometimes take 6 months to, in some cases, 2 to 3 years. What this program would do, if we were to get it off the ground, it would allow for those services that happen at the state hospital right now to get them restored to competency so they can have their legal processes completed. That would happen at the jail. And so instead of waiting for state hospital slots, we'd be able to get folks restored more quickly and at the jail while they're already there. Again, that's in the discussion phase. The price tag that Core Health came back on the initial one was pretty hefty, so we're still working on it.
Is there a correlation between a person that is state hospital ready versus state jail ready? Is that person treated the same way in our revenue or does the state owe us to hold Johnny that's waiting on the state hospital and we're holding him 8 months because they haven't had space?
So the short answer is no. Representative Frank carried a bill this session that would have addressed that would have had the state paying for counties that are holding inmates that should be at the state hospital and they're not because the slots aren't there. He got it out of the House. Unfortunately, it didn't make it out of the Senate. There were other bills to help address the state not taking possession of its inmates going to state jail from us that did pass, so we should see some improvement there or reimbursement. But on the state hospital side, no, they're not paying for it, and I think they should, but they're not.
Which we don't have many, you know, in the past, especially during COVID, we had those long extended wait times to go to PDC and state jail. That's not really a problem anymore.
Oh.
They're usually picking them up within that 45 days, for the most part.
Yeah, our bigger problem is the state hospital. and-
Absolutely, 100%.
Any questions on this? Any other? Oh, Captain Patterson, I think you were gonna say something, and then I called Judge Gossam. Do you remember what that was?
Sorry. Gets worse when you get older.
Oh,
And have y'all met with, Captain Patterson, have y'all met with Core Health since we met that day to talk through any of these things? Okay,
Core Health is not, as far as I know, they have not seen the detainee report.
okay.
I can share this with them, if you would like for me to do so.
Yeah, I mean, Monday, the court it's on the agenda for the court to accept and then pay detain for their services, so I think
Okay.
that would be.
Yes, I can share this with the HSA.
We, when you paid the team, we agreed to pay half out DCIF when that first came up
Oh,
2 years ago, so.
you keep reminding us of that, and I keep forgetting. That's,
I'm doing my part.
Thank you.
If you don't want to take it out, that's fine.
No, I'll
And-
happily take your money.
Sure you want to know all of it.
And
I
on
would agree
those,
to half, Judge.
the development of anything going forward, or, I mean, have y'all thought, or has there been any ideal that would ever incorporate our older facility that would change a remodel look to it, that allowed us to segregate to a mental health angle, or to participate or do something more of a criminal holding of a mental patient more so than?
Never been thought of, and of course, you know, we decommissioned that jail, so we couldn't use it as a jail standards without bringing it to current jail standards.
Right.
I think that might be something maybe a little further down the road. We can get the competency restoration program off and see it running. I think that'd be a huge start that could be something that morphs. It's a need, mental health needs in our criminal justice system are going away, so. All right, item number 4, discuss and review jail maintenance projects and work orders. Chief?
I put a piece of paper on each of your desks with the updates of where we're at in jail from last time, 2 weeks ago. So it's highlighted as things that have been changed or the update to it. The biggest thing this week, and I spoke to Mark about, was the compressor on the big freezer went out. We had to replace it. They're actually replacing it today.
I can't believe it. It's already gone out. It's,
This was new equipment with the jail?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Sure it's right out of warranty.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is.
yeah, like probably 2 days.
But they lasted very long down
No,
And it's $4,980 to replace.
that's not that bad. I mean, it's,
Could be worse.
yeah.
Do what?
Doesn't need a
That's right, it's $9,980.
Said you gotta get $20 off, so don't get.
But it is an emergency, so we had to have it, so.
I see your item number 7 with the RTUs staying running when the temp gets over 100 feet outside. Can you speak a little bit more to, is that a problem with just the settings that we have on the
I couldn't
units, or
speak anymore, I couldn't tell you on
If
that.
if it's if it's on the text on the page, that's what you know, okay?
Yes, sir.
What is
The RTUs, the
Rooftop units.
so much, it's just a lot.
So apparently we're pulling in too much exchange air at 110 degrees, which that makes sense.
So they come out and apparently they adjusted them last year, Train did, or Trinity did, so they're gonna readjust those, they're still causing some issues.
We need to be careful with them adjusting it, because that was all part of the T and B of the building. If we move them too much, we'll develop humidity problems and everything else, so.
So on number 8, are y'all, is that gonna be covered by warranty, or do we know yet?
So, I don't know if y'all got the email. I know Mark did. Officer Drada reached out to the manufacturer, of the roof, and we've got I guess the installer is going to come out and look at, there's 2 issues going on with the leak, with the roof. One of them is the caps that are on the edge of the building. The seal is either gone or cracked on majority of those seals. The other issue is in one of our pods. Like when I was standing on the roof, you could clearly feel the roof giving in that area where it almost felt like a structure issue. Like you could bounce on it when you can't do that anywhere else. And that's in where I was standing was exactly where the roof tiles in the pod are discolored from the rain. So he was supposed to get an email confirmation yesterday or today. If not, he's gonna reach back out to the installer on Monday to have them set up a time to come look at that, and then we'll determine at that time what all's warranty and whatnot, so.
Okay. And y'all notified the manufacturer as soon as we started having problems with it?
When we first started having problems, he reached out to the one who applied it,
Okay.
M&L, and they said, well, you know, it's out of warranty, that part's out of warranty, you need to fix it. So now he's reached out actually to Carlisle, who's the manufacturer, and they reached back to M&L to fix it.
Okay. I think it's something definitely to stay on top of, because the manufacturer, I think, of the product will cover us a lot better than the installer ever would.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's got, what, a 25 or 30-year warranty?
Drada said it's a 40-year
I
warranty.
think 40, yeah.
Okay.
On that rooftop.
Won't be.
I will not
Yeah.
even.
Throw that out there.
Okay. None of us do. If we do, we'll all be Judge Gossam.
Wasn't gonna go there, but.
Okay. Any other questions on this item?
On number 4 of that, it's actually on the agenda for Monday. I don't know how much I can go into detail with it, but,
You can't, I mean,
okay.
discussion.
So what that is it's in the 2 medical GP pods, there are no night lights. And so when you turn the lights off in there, it's completely pitch black dark. And so the options are to turn the lights off or keep the lights on. And so the agenda item, I believe it is on for Monday, is going to be to add those night lights. We also had to do that in 2 other pods after the fact. E and F pod, we had to go back in and put night lights in after the fact as well. So that's what that item is gonna be for
Yeah, we had a
on Monday.
item during construction to do that, and it was so crazy
Yeah.
expensive that
Yeah,
And it's not just this night light, it's replacement of the whole
yeah.
whole
light.
fixture.
Said my Care Bears nightlight went on.
Yeah.
Right.
Care Bear stare.
There's another maintenance issue that he didn't put on here. We've been having an issue with one of our toilets in one of our pods. It's continuously leaking. You know, they've done everything that they can do, and so there could be a possibility we may have to purchase a new toilet. So
We
that,
have one spare.
the one that's outside,
There's one in the warehouse, yeah.
I think that's the one that they replaced from one that they had to replace in the
Oh, this is left
in the
over.
60s. Okay, just disregard. We may have one. If not, we may have to buy another toilet, so.
This one's in the connector spring. You didn't ask.
One final question. Margaret asked me, and I should know this, and I didn't. But are we operating off a 1 main meter at the new jail and 1 main meter at the old jail?
At the Sprague Annex.
They're on separate
Talking
meters.
about water or electrical?
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Is all the power going into the old facility under 1 meter and all the power coming in the new facility
Well,
under
the new
1?
facility's out there by the,
Yeah, it has its own.
has its own. Now,
Power.
I don't know about the other because it's shared with Vernon College, so. I
Yeah.
know there's a transformer there on the side of the building, but I don't know if there is 1 meter or 2 meters there and how they're split.
But is there another meter wheel at the gun range? Its own meter?
Yeah.
Yes, you
Yes.
know that.
And is that a, what's that, industrial drive? What's the
Production.
production drive? Is that how that would be read off a production drive there on that meter?
Could be production or Sprague, I don't know.
I think it's on the south side of that building. It's probably read from production.
Okay.
All right, anything else? Okay, item number 5, receive status report on salaries and overtime.
We did start 5 new ones this week, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You know, on top of the ones that we started a couple weeks ago.
The 20?
Huh?
Yeah, the 20?
Yeah. We had one leave to go to the army, and one leave for
Now you're jinxing
medical
it.
reasons.
Did we have any luck at the job fair yesterday?
We are billing out 19 applications today.
Wow.
That's good.
I noticed our jail numbers are holding pretty steady. I always thought we had a spike in the heat of the summer. Is that still coming? Oh,
Now you jinxed it.
strike that from the record. I didn't ask that. Seems like that's what we had.
He did. He did.
Yes, historically, you're correct, Barry, in the summertime, that they do go up.
This weekend, they're gonna arrest 100 people.
Do what we should.
People like you all will arrest 100 people.
Don't
now.
worry out that our air conditioning's not working very good. Or
Right.
It might slow it down some, but,
slow it down a little.
yeah.
Turned into a hot discussion at that legislative session.
Was that pun intended?
Not that sharp, Judge, not that sharp. I wish that was.
What was the basic, people from the job fair, this similar to what y'all, or were they all over?
I just know that Deputy Wallace told me he had 19, he collected 19, information from 19 that requested applications.
Wow.
Yes, that stimulus money is running out in other places too.
Overtime, in 561s for the jail. May 11th pay period was 3218. This last one was 2503. That's a trend that seems to have continued for each of the last 5 pay periods. It's a good trend.
But that's some of what you were talking about, Lisa, about being able to close those pods when you can, and then that helps with your overtime requirement.
Yeah, I mean, we do everything that we can to alleviate as much overtime as possible. You know, I mean, in the end, it helps the county financially, but giving our people as much of a break as possible really, really helps, so.
And I believe there's like 700 hours of that was vacation
It
and
was.
sick time that had to be covered. So
we've had several recently that are out on FMLA. You know, we've got a couple, we've got, well, one now that's still out on military, so, you know, those are positions that have to be covered every day, so.
Yeah,
But I believe that all of those are, I don't believe we have anybody out on FMLA right now, just the one that's out on military.
Yeah, Chief, to your point, the trend line going in the right direction is even in spite of total non-working hours having increased. That's all.
Yeah.
Everyone good? All right. Then we'll move on to item number 6, which is review and discuss regular bills.
I guess you could say we're behind on our spending now.
We're not.
Yeah, they picked up drastically.
Yes.
And I think though I still might have a little bit of budget left. I don't think I spent it all
Well, that's good.
on.
It goes away pretty quick this time of the year.
It really does.
Yeah. When you're spending $40,000 a day in oil.
I see that budget lines is on this one, and I filed my affidavit. My wife did work for them earlier this year as a virtual assistant, and so I've sent my affidavit. I do have to abstain from discussion on this item, and will on Monday for approving the bills.
What was it?
Budget lines.
For the temporary courtroom and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
They did a great job, by the way. No, I know. I just made a comment. They look good.
That's good because the windows look terrible.
I know. They do.
I hope there's some good blinds covering them up. Oh, we needed some.
Lipstick on a pig.
We needed some aluminum foil over the windows or something.
thank y'all.
Yeah, Tony's been cleaning the windows. The ones he's cleaned actually look
Thank
really
you,
good.
too.
I didn't see some blinds on that.
Yeah, well, I know.
The
They're,
bird cages behind them, just the whole look
Yeah.
is just terrible.
I know. Someday.
It's on that 68 series mobile home book.
That is exactly what it was.
We're trying to reach the aliens.
No, I'm trying to prevent the aliens from reaching us.
No?
There you go, that's why we need the foil.
That's right.
Well, we've got a 60-year-old collection of bird poop.
That's sick.
We got a room.
Those are for the temporary courtroom, the blinds?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Need to get some blinds for my office. I looked up and this guy staring in the window at me.
Did you not have blinds before? Or?
I don't think there were windows before, were there? It was plywood.
No, well, there was one of them got busted out
Yeah.
early on in the project. So.
Yeah.
plywood on one of them now.
Well, at some point there was just windows, but when we started the construction, they probably did put the plywood there
Yeah, yeah.
for quite a while.
When they busted through
Mhm.
the trash chute with throwing giant chunks of steel out.
Oh, did they know James?
Somebody did that in the other building too? Sorry.
Taking a look at the Monday agenda, we may need to bring lunch.
Right.
Just in case.
The, on payroll, a while ago, Cheryl and I forgot to say, so we looked back at the CTERS. What y'all had given us was a base pay with a benefits pay, and then we created the pay. What I asked Archer County about was, would they just allow us to do a $30 pay? Because there's various FEMA rates for operators versus workers, and they said yes, that was fine. And so I have to show mail that line, but I said we didn't want to have to do 10 people, tracking of 10 people for a day and bill them out 10 different people at $2 difference rates on everybody. We just wanted to flat rate the pay. And so when I look at our CTERS grant pay sheet, nobody was at 30. I asked them, we were all derivatives from 25 to 29.
Right,
And so
before
I
the
asked them, would they
fringe.
just settle for 30 if we just called it good across the board, that paying for an operator, paying for a flagger?
But the pay rates have all gone up since those charts were done.
Yes, but we're talking about 10 people on a day. So, I mean, give or take, you know, I've got plenty of my hands at $15 or $16 that have a benefit package added on top of that, which won't be that high. So for the most part, we're gonna hit under that. There might be foremans that are involved that would be more than that, but if we just flatted the rate, it would make it so much easier to give you 10 people, 6 hours, $30 times $30. And, I mean, give or take, we're not talking $100 one way or the other.
And you sent that to mail or you're going to?
No, I'm going to take it to mail. That's the only thing, the cleanup we needed in that.
You're still looking, or?
I'm gonna say one thing. Today's a baked potato deal. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, that is right.
I was just reminding
Yeah.
everybody that today.
Thank you.
You bought your tickets.
Yeah.
Today is?
Yeah.
Today's the day.
It is today.
He's also health board.
Yep. Someone's gonna get to enjoy my baked potato.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It is okay.
On, it's kind of related to bills, landfill for picking up trash on the roads. And I'll bring this up again Monday. We were able to track down 2 people that dumped trash, illegally dumped it in the creek, and got felony warrants on both of them. One of them's already in jail, so don't be dumping your trash in precinct 2's creeks or roads.
Wichita
Any
County.
precinct.
Yeah.
I'm going to the point now where I'm actually fingerprinting trash. So I'm tired of it.
And you know, to that note, there was, we used to have a terrible problem. And the sheriff has helped tremendously. At Burnett Park, there was a sign that said, you know, no dumping by order of the sheriff, and it was faded, and I'd redone that, put it back up there. But now, because they included it for now several years on their patrol, it's eliminated. We just don't have that issue no more. And it was a
That might have been the spot in the
Yeah.
county, you know.
Constable 2 was
So it's
the,
moved to his creek.
Constable 2 was the determining factor behind this, because he was willing to take it and do the investigation and do all the interviews and
good.
I can
followed
see
up
Jared
and
doing that.
So y'all are going to get something done about that person that did that?
we'll see what the courts do. I don't know.
Oh, okay. But you've identified it and taken it to that level then?
Okay.
Yeah, make sure you know you're going to. Say something about on Monday when more people
Yeah.
might be watching as well. All right, has everyone had a chance to look through everything?
Oh, one thing, Judge, services for Doug Pendleton, who worked for Precinct 3, will be at 11 o'clock at lunch tomorrow. So, just a tragic situation there, but 11 o'clock.
All right, anyone else?
Just, I want to add so that y'all know, we had 5 original sale items that didn't sell because we're waiting on title issues and that we've still got some issue. The 2 tankers, were they yours? Both of those, Barry, the old Wisconsin dozer trailer,
Yeah.
both they have denied us titles on. Not that they don't care, I think Purple Wave is stating that they'll sell them with the bill of sale. But Mark, the 2 internationals, we got back your international title, but the other truck, they're having trouble on the VIN. So we're gonna clarify on the VIN and get back, but that will sell next month. Those 5 items will move once we get everything cleared up on that.
It's very easy to be off a number on one of those,
Yeah.
and it messes the whole deal up, especially those older ones.
But we had some awesome sales.
We did, and one thing that I want to comment, like Barry had 2 cabinets. They were just random cabinets that Mel or Cheryl would have taken out of their office that just came, and they sold good. I mean, and that was not really something you'd think about a precinct item being, but, so we can go if people have something that we can.
And we're not
Well,
gonna
as
miss
we-
any of it.
No.
As we go through the inventory next year, that might be something to do with all
We
that
could-
extra crap.
We got
Hanging out there
7,000
in the
filing
limit
cabinets, we
building.
can
Right.
Purple Wave.
Say you could.
It's like,
Could have made
Alright.
bank off of my office had.
It is 11:12 and court is adjourned.
yep.